Fitness coming to you from KUHS, and we are actually in RE Fitness and Nutrition, which is just right across the hall from the radio station. So if you ever find yourself in the area and you're looking for something good and healthy to eat that's going to provide you the protein that you need, this is a good location for you to stop by. So I highly recommend it. But with that being said,
today we're going to talk about caffeine, right?
We are going to talk about caffeine today.
Oh, hi, I am America. I am Baltazar's victim for the time being until he gets some guests in here. So if you want to come and be a guest in Midday Fitness with Baltazar, please by all means reach out to Baltazar or I and we'll get that scheduled.
She just likes to play the victim card. It's mostly just a client who doesn't like to follow protocols at all. But in any case, so in which I wanted to come here today too for a specific reason. So we had the conversation last time where you sent me a picture of your coffee, and that was pretty much what you were taking for the day, or at least to start off your day.
Yes.
And so there is nothing wrong with coffee. There's a key stimulant in it though that everyone tends to rely on. Doesn't matter whether you work out or not, people are always trying to drink coffee because it's basically a legal drug, right? Like I've known people to take coffee on a daily basis, or caffeine I should be saying specifically, and it is utilized obviously to provide energy. And without getting into the science of anything or anything like that, it's basically a blocker. So it blocks you from losing energy in your body and allows your body to maintain it for a much longer period of time. That's why people love caffeine so much.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what happens as the day progresses on and the more caffeine that you take in, your body eventually starts to reject the caffeine, and then that's where the anxiety comes in people, and then you start to see the hand shaking. So I had a friend years ago, I was probably like 24, 25, I had a roommate, and he was drinking like 7 cups of coffee a day. Didn't matter on the size of it. Sometimes it was a big canister, sometimes it was a smaller cup, but he was just like, it was water to him essentially. And he would get some really bad shakes from drinking so much caffeine that he would be paranoid if our boss called for no reason whatsoever. He would be freaking out. He's like, oh my God, why is he calling today? And that can contribute to whether or not he was actually doing what he was supposed to be doing at work, but mostly it was because of the caffeine. And then the withdrawal effect of it is a real thing. That's why I say it's a drug, is because the moment that you stop taking caffeine, especially in high dosages like that, you get some really bad side effects. Migraines or headaches being the specific one. And then 2, people thinking that you don't have the energy anymore. Because again, remember what I said at the beginning of this is that it's a blocker. So it prevents you from losing energy, or at least your body thinking it's losing energy, which propels it. It allows you to think more clearly in the morning. That's again why people like it in the morning, is because it gives them that instant boost. And when you take too much of it, it actually eliminates that ability, and your body actually just becomes used to you performing at that base. So the moment that you take it away, all of a sudden you feel like you can't perform at that base, when in fact you actually are, but the stimulant is no longer there.
You know, that makes so much sense, especially I can relate to your friend with the 6 to 7 cups. I want to say pre-2020, because I stopped drinking lots of coffee when I was pregnant with my son, so 2019-ish. Yeah, 2018, 2019. And I could say I didn't even eat. I would go the whole day with just drinking coffee and being on my computer, just, hammering out the work day. And I wouldn't even eat.
That's actually a good point that you bring up, because a lot of people will drink 2 to 3 cups of coffee in the morning on a daily basis to prevent them from actually wanting to eat. It curbs their appetite in a way. And that can work for some, and it mostly doesn't work for people at all in that sense, because most of the time, and I like to use moms as an example of this, is that you get your kids ready in the morning, you have to get yourself ready, maybe even sometimes you have to get your spouse ready, depending on how much they depend on you in that sense. Do you have
to get your spouse ready?
Case in point, it's like having 3 kids sometimes in that sense. But, as you get ready to leave your house, depending on what time you went to bed the night before and everything, you're probably low on time. like you're pretty much rushing. So the first thing out the door is you're either taking coffee with you, or once you drop off the kids, you're probably stopping at your local coffee shop to get a coffee. And more than likely you make a bad nutritional choice at that point, because you're just like, I didn't get a chance to eat this morning. I didn't prepare anything. I'm going to go ahead and buy this donut or this muffin or whatever they have available. And so depending on how the coffee is prepared, you could be having anywhere from like 800 to 1,000 calories with nothing provided in there. Nowadays, like if you come to RE Fitness over here by KUHS, is that you can get coffee with protein in it. Okay, so there's a bonus there. So not only am I getting a stimulant, but I'm also getting some protein into my diet, which is better than nothing, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that that is the most healthiest thing for people to do, but at least it's something that's gonna help propel you through the morning. Where getting that muffin and a coffee with cream and sugar and all of that stuff in there, it's not gonna be as good for you in that sense. And it's gonna make your lunch more than likely even more attractive, that you have to have something good. Or, you know, again, if you're in that big of a rush, you probably didn't meal prep, and then now you're buying something from fast food, whether it's McDonald's, even Chipotle, where, I mean, that's another 1,200 calories that you're getting. And then before you know, by the time you get home, you're going to be eating another 1,200. So all of a sudden you're way over your limit for the day when it comes to your caloric intake, and you're probably under on your protein.
Probably. And I want to say, we've talked about this in the past, where you said that you can eat healthy at fast food places.
You can, if you shop wisely. That's a huge thing that I do for a lot of my clients, is when they're out on the road, or if they're even traveling and they don't necessarily have the time to prepare meals for themselves, is like, where can I go, or what can I get from this certain restaurant to help me, you know, make it through, so I can at least get something adequate enough that's not going to kill my day. And that's totally feasible. This is where I would say, like, do your homework, do some research on the menu items. People always make fun of me because I'm looking at the menus and I'm just kind of like, and I scour through and I eventually find what I want to eat. You can find things wherever you go. It just, you have to do your research, and you have to be willing to sacrifice that. So we're coming up on our break real quick. We will be back, and we'll go ahead and continue discussing the effects of caffeine and how much you should be having on a daily basis.
Greetings, everyone. We're glad that you joined us today. As you watch and learn, please remember that KUHS is an interactive platform, and we encourage you to engage at every level, so that, number one, we know that you're appreciating the content that you currently enjoy, and number two, your feedback will help expand, grow, and improve our future programs. Again, thanks for being here.
Welcome back. I'm here with America Still over here at RE Fitness and Nutrition across from KUHS, and we are continuing our topic on caffeine and how much you should actually be taking on a daily basis. So I gave you the story earlier of my friend who had shakes really bad, and you even said so yourself.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
So yeah, so again, some of the negative side effects of too much caffeine can be anxiety. It can be the energy crash that you suffer at the end of the day, and then it can also inhibit your ability to fall asleep easily at night. So caffeine has a half-life with it when it comes to it. Your first dose could be anywhere. It can affect you for about 8 hours, giving you that boost, and then you start to feel that low probably in the afternoon, where people usually want to have something again to kind of kick them back up.
Well, I agree with that, because I would drink it and then it wouldn't be enough anymore.
Yeah.
So then I started adding Red Bulls.
Yeah. Which again is just another form of the caffeine in that sense. So to your point, okay, so let's talk about that now. So like when you talked about the amount of caffeine an individual should be having on a day, at the top is anywhere between 400 and 450 milligrams of caffeine. So what does that mean? So if you take a plain cup of coffee, you know, whatever size it would be, like an 8-ounce glass or something like that, or mug, or whatever you're drinking it from, that's 120 milligrams, right? So I could essentially have 4 cups of coffee and be okay with my dosage. Roughly, I might be over it just a little bit. But at that point, you're kind of done. And that's, again, like the more that you take it and you consume it throughout the day, you might get an 8-hour chunk, a 4-hour chunk, a 2-hour chunk, and then a 1 hour. So the half-life of the caffeine. But again, it's still messing up your sleep. So like if you're taking coffee in the afternoon for the caffeine kick, you know, 4 or 5 in the afternoon, then it's probably going to mess you up if you're trying to go to sleep at a certain period of time. So that's what you want to be mindful of when it comes to that. But for myself, because I take what's called a pre-workout, which is just a huge kick of my caffeine all at one time. And that's 400 milligrams. So the brand that I take, I almost top myself off for the day, and I put myself in that red zone even for myself because.
So you do drink coffee?
No, I don't drink coffee. I do my pre-workout. And I'm just saying
pre-workout.
that, and that gives me 400 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay.
So if I have a diet soda, 1 or 2 a day, that's anywhere from an extra 60 to 80 milligrams that I could be consuming throughout the day on top of the 400 that I had. So I'm already over my daily limit if that's the case. So I really tried to take a couple days off a week from having caffeine. So if I do some type of workout, whether it's an intense one or a lot lower in intensity, then I'm having somewhere around, I'm doing that 5 times a week. And then usually the weekend, Saturday and Sundays, I avoid caffeine altogether. So I won't have any sodas usually, I won't have any pre-workout, and I come down off of it. I don't feel any negative effects. I don't feel like I all of a sudden have no energy or anything like that. It's a nice little reboost or restart to my system to not have to necessarily need that addiction, so to speak, which caffeine can very much be an addiction. That's why I said it was a legal drug.
Yeah, it is an addiction.
It is, yeah. And like I said, like people rely on it to curb appetite. We were talking about another stimulant that I'll do some research on between now and next time, and we can kind of cover that. But there are other stimulants too that can help you lower or suppress your appetite. And that's not necessarily what you want to do when it comes to actually losing weight. And this is something that we could talk about later on, is like caloric intake, calories in versus calories out, why that isn't necessarily just true, but there is a lot of truth to it. It's just not the end all be all to why people can't lose weight or if they gain weight in that sense. So other than that, I would say use caffeine in limits and limitations. Don't use it, don't abuse it, because it's very easy to. I, even for myself, taking it as a pre-workout, it's very easy to abuse it in that sense. Is because it really maintains your focus, and then you have that lull in the afternoon, and then you're enticed to want to take more to make it through your day, and you really don't want to do that. So don't let it mess up your sleep, so that way you can have a much better night's rest and you're more refreshed and ready to go in the morning.
Okay. I've never drank pre-workout.
You know, there was a TikTok or viral things that were going on years ago, probably anywhere from 7 to 10 years ago, where people were trying to smash pre-workout, basically dry scooping pre-workout without anything in there, because it hits your system so much faster. So if you can imagine,
So it's like snorting cocaine?
Yeah, pretty much. And they were also doing like multiple shots of it at once too. So I think there were reports of people dying from it. Don't quote me on that, but it was just one of those things where people were really abusing it. And then they were actually at least going to the hospital if they didn't die from it. They were trying to recover from the amount of caffeine that they were taking in, along with other stimulants that you find in pre-workouts too. You have beta-alanine and L-theanine and different things like that that have different effects on your body. Some people refer to beta-alanine as the thing that makes your butthole itch. Just because it gives you like this real, like your body's tingling on fire, but not in a bad way, but you're just like, I got to do something. That's a lot of things that people tend to like about certain pre-workouts, is if it has a certain stimulant in it outside of the caffeine kick that you get. So
again, just more drugs.
It is.
That give you more.
Exactly. It is.
Different stimuli.
Yep.
That makes you work out.
Yep, exactly. Okay. That at least focuses you to help you in your workouts.
So if you're going to be a junkie, be a good junkie and at least work out.
I don't know about that. Well, I mean, even working out to a degree, I guess you can consider it to be excessive at times for certain people. People utilize it to get over certain things going on in their life and all of that. So you have to be mindful of not replacing one drug for another drug when it comes to that. So
well, and I guess something else we can talk about next time is I see a lot of people abuse the pre-workout, right? I've seen that a lot. Yep. And I guess I didn't consider, back then when I was drinking a lot of coffee, I didn't consider me abusing coffee because it was just a way of life.
Yeah.
But now that I actually am conscious about it, I'm like, oh geez, I can't drink that much.
Yeah.
Because I did feel the withdrawal effects, but it's also the abuse, right? So like I said, if you're gonna abuse it, at least put it to work.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you're gonna drink lots of coffee, try to work out, try to put that energy into something, because then it just stays there stagnant.
Exactly. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us for Midday Fitness, and until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.